Hey everybody, Darren Burrows here. Today I'm here with Mel and Dave Dupuis from North Bay, Ontario, and we're going to be talking about using OPM and owning properties outright and buying real estate. These guys are the foremost experts in this category. They're killing it in real estate investing right now. I'm so excited that they're here to join me today. Before we get into it with Mel and Dave, if you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and please feel free to leave comments and questions below for us. Without further ado, let's get into it. Mel, Dave, great to have you guys here. Before we jump in, give us a bit of an intro on who you guys are and what you do as real estate investors.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Darren, for having us. Basically, Dave and I, we are full-time real estate investors. We've been doing it now combined for 19 years.
We keep saying 19, but it's been 19 for a while.
I know, you kind of get
you start saying something. I'm sure it's 21 now.
Yeah, we have to recalculate. But yeah, and we solely own over 170 units, and we specialize in buying multifamily properties using none of our own money and without joint venture partners.
Explain that a little bit. So, because there's lots of different ways to buy properties and acquire real estate, you guys have come up with this model that is essentially you're buying properties, multifamily properties for the most part, using other people's money, but you still own it 100% outright. Explain how that works.
Yeah, we're borrowing that money. We have private lenders, private investors, creative financing, owner financing, vendor take back, seller finance. Everyone calls it a different thing, right? But yeah, using other people's money in order to purchase real estate, and instead of giving equity or partnerships, just because that wouldn't work for Mel and I, and I know it works for some people, and kudos, and that's amazing, and there's so many ways to buy it, but our structure, we want to give everything to our kids, right, down the road, so we need to solely own it. But yeah, so we utilize other people's money, we give them interest, obviously, and they entrust us with our deals because we make sure to only buy good ones that are going to cash flow and be able to pay them back. And that's kind of how we do it in a very quick nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys mind if we break down a deal? Because Dave, you mentioned so many different things like OPM and using other investors and all that kind of stuff. Can we walk through a deal or two and just explain how you're able to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. We can do one that we've done in the past if you want, Darren, and we can do an active one that is in transition. So
I'd love to do them both. Yeah.
Perfect.
So tell us about the first one. How did you acquire it? First of all, where did you find it? And then kind of run us through the process.
Yeah, great. And this was an off-market deal. It had been listed, I think, a year before. So, and the realtor, off-market, the realtor had a pocket deal, a pocket listing where they didn't want to list it. And they thought, if you know someone, it was a sixplex, and we purchased it. It was in our city. We purchased it for $575. And I don't want people to get caught up in the numbers because this works everywhere. Some people might say that's a steal of a deal where I live. Some people might say, oh my gosh, I can't believe you paid that much. So
yeah, no, focus on the concept of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I bought a property for $1 million in Toronto and tore it to the ground. So, everything's relative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, 575, sixplex. And this was it was a widowed lady. Her husband had built the building. He was the real estate investor. She saw it as a burden and a problem. So yeah, pocket deal. We come along. Hey, we have a credit union that is going to give us 75% first mortgage. If you can, and this was one of the 12 and 12. If you can hold a second mortgage.
Yep. So she held the second mortgage, and this was a true win-win for her. She was able to get rid of the property, and then we were able to increase its value. So what we refer to often is forced appreciation. It truly was an underperforming property. The rents were really, really low. There was one unit that needed to be redone as well. But other than that, the other units were in excellent condition. So we knew we didn't have to put too much money into it. But there was a huge appreciation that could happen.
So, short story, TLC got that one unit that was down to the studs, renovated, rented, up the other rents. I think that was 2017, and we just refinanced it during COVID with CMHC this year. So however many months that adds up to. Mm-hmm. But we got the evaluation up to 840. Don't quote me on that, 840. So obviously got a new first mortgage, paid her out, paid the existing mortgage. We're left with a cash flowing asset, cash flow every month. And we put no money into the deal technically, right? Everyone else's money.
Yeah.
and now we keep cash flowing. So an infinite return deal, right?
Can I ask a couple clarifying questions on the vendor take back is essentially what you did there, or the seller financing, whatever. You brushed over it quickly because you guys do this all the time. So do I. But for those people that have never done one, so you got the bank to come in and finance the first 75%. Then you went to the seller and said, hey, we would like you to hold a second mortgage on top of the first mortgage, that additional 25%, to essentially bring up your loan to value to 100%. What was the term of that loan, and what did that loan look like? So interest rate, you mentioned about 27, 20, maybe 36 months. Was that what the initial term? Was there an extension to that? How did that all
No,
work?
so we did go with a 5-year term.
Okay.
And the reason we went 5 years is because we always want to, worst case scenario. So we figured that it would come to fruition very early on, but we're all about making sure, of course, to have our exit strategy. We always talk about exit strategy, and what that means essentially is making sure that we can repay them back on time. But ideally, of course, as we always do, is pay them back early, unless they don't want to be paid back early. That happens as well, but typically we pay them back early. So no, in this case, we had 5 years, but because we're able to force the appreciation, it came to fruition early, then we refinanced, paid her out, and made it a win-win. Now in this case, she took the money and kind of did her thing. Quite often what happens though, and this is where you as an investor, you're able to continue to grow from it, you pay them back, and now they know you, they like you, they trust you, you pay them on time, you pay them back early, you never miss a payment, you communicated with them, and now they want to do it all over again, whether they have another property to sell or not, or perhaps now they can become a private lender, whether it's in form of, maybe they have RSPs or a line of credit through a promissory note. So there's just so many options.
And was the seller familiar with this strategy, or did you guys have to explain it to them a little bit?
No, she was not. This was her husband's really passion, the real estate. So she was stuck. She was in a situation where she's like, I want to get rid of this building and whatnot. So it truly was a win-win situation. But no, absolutely breaking it down, explaining to her why she should consider this, explaining to her and showing her, most importantly, our exit strategy. We always use our matrix for that. So that was really, really important part of it all.
So break it down for me, if you don't mind. What did the conversation sound like? Because I know a lot of people are going to be interested in doing this kind of thing. And the thing that I hear a lot is you can't do it on smaller transactions, on, single family dwellings, but it's absolutely available on every single transaction as long as it's the right seller, right? And I think that's really key. So what was the conversation? How did you explain, what are the benefits of somebody holding a second mortgage on a property that they essentially want to sell?
Yeah. So, and again, this was succession planning for this lady, right? So because she did not have it, so we saved her from this property, if you want to put it for lack of better terms or lack of better wording. But yeah, that's what the conversation was. It was, Mrs. Seller, let's call her that, Mrs. Seller. We're going to buy your property. We're going to give you the price that you're relatively asking for, right? But in turn, we're going to ask you to hold financing, which she had the building paid off. So, it was no issue. We're going to pay you interest on this endeavor, and it's going to help you tax wise, because if someone comes along and gives you the entire purchase price of $575, you're going to be taxed on that entire amount in the year you receive it. However, if you let us purchase the building with owner financing, and I forget what the numbers are, let me just use easy numbers here. Let's say it's 350 or 370 is what she received in that year from the bank, right, for the first mortgage.
Yep.
So now you're going to receive 370. You're going to be taxed on that amount, and whatever's left over, you can spread over, I think, up to a max of 5 years. So you can spread that out, and you're going to make interest on that, and your headache goes away immediately. So she was ready to sign the papers, right? Yeah. She was done. So and again, that's it. It really does help the sellers with their tax burden, because they get to spread the love, is kind of how we say it, right?
Yeah, and you mentioned one thing, Darren, about one point I wanted to make as well. So this one was a 6-plex. We've done it on smaller, we've done it on bigger units. So the number of units don't matter. It's just a matter of, is it a good fit for the seller? And are you going to get some no's? Absolutely. Even when we bought 12 in 12 months, and many of them, the majority of them were with owner financing, but we did use different strategies. Did we get a lot of no's? Absolutely. Did we get a lot of owner financing opportunities that didn't make sense because we didn't have that clear exit strategy? Absolutely. So it's really making sure to be comfortable with getting some no's because it doesn't work for everyone, and also ensuring not to get too excited because oh, I can get into this deal with no money down. Well, that's great, but you have to look out for the future as well, making sure that you truly have that clear exit strategy.
And was there any pushback, if you will, for lack of a better term, on essentially, you're buying the property at that point. They're a second mortgage holder. So they go from being an owner now to a lender, but they know this property. You're going to go in and you're going to renovate it. Is there any sort of, like I say, pushback on what your skills are as renovators and how you're going to turn this building over? What happens if, somebody went in there and destroyed it and then all of a sudden they defaulted? That would be something that as an inexperienced owner, they might ask those kinds of questions. How do you handle that?
Yeah, great question, and we get that all the time. I love it. So the objections, they hit us with them all the time, and rightfully so, right? They're basically going to be the bank. They should be asking us questions.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So in our situation, we'll be able to show them past renovations and past experience. But again, it's all, everyone's been there their first time, right? I'm thinking back to try and help as many people. The first time that we had that objection, we basically just laid out our game plan. Here's our maintenance team. Here's our contractor. Here's the price that they've given us. So I'm not just, blowing smoke. We're going to be trying to do X, Y, Z, which we figure will accomplish this amount of rent, which overall will increase the value of the building. So if you have to take it back, so just showing them the legwork that you have done if you've not done it before, right? Like you're going to get those quotes and get those prices and check out some materials that you're going to put in. Other objections we get, Darren, is I need to talk to my accountant, my lawyer. And absolutely, go talk to your accountant, go talk to your lawyer, and they're going to have an opinion, which again is fair, right? So their lawyer is going to say, what if to the nth degree, and be ready to answer those questions. Yes, if you do take the property back, if for whatever reason we go belly up, I understand, when you have assignment of rents and you have guarantees and all this stuff, but after I've told you my plan, after I've laid out what we're going to do with it, you're actually going to be taking back a better building than what you gave it to us. And you'll have a better evaluation there. And the accountants, same thing. They'll say, well, they'll talk about taxes and all that, but in the grand scheme of things, they have to be comfortable, but be ready for those objections because they're coming, and the accountants will ask them. So
yeah, and be ready to, in a way, almost sales pitch yourself, right? What are you bringing? What are you offering? If you've done it before, and you've been successful at it, talk about it. If you haven't done it before, what do you bring to the table? Maybe you have a full-time job right now, they feel secure that your income is there. Maybe you have great credit. Maybe you're a very handy person and you're going to do the renovations yourself. So whatever you have, make sure to talk about it as well, because they are in a sense buying into you as well, right? They have to feel comfortable. It benefits them, of course, but they also have to feel comfortable with you that you will truly take the property from here to here. And I can't stress this enough, the communications piece, and it doesn't have to be consistent, but it has to be there absolutely throughout the relationship of where the building's at, right? Whether it's sending them a little video or taking pictures or a little email saying, hey, just so you know, we want to let you know that we just replace the shingles, for example, or whatever it is.
Makes them feel good,
right? They love it. They love the updates. Yeah.
You mentioned the renovation, and because you use OPM, how did you finance that?
Either with our own savings, or sometimes we'll do the fund to flip, right? Where we'll say to someone, hey, we need 50K. Here's the very clear, precise plan. It's going to be a promissory note, contractual agreement, and you'll be paid as soon as we refinance. And then we'll show them, boom, our cash flow analysis matrix, which shows them factual numbers and predictions on market and rents and that type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Often depends with the amount, or depends what else we have going on. If it's a small amount, then we'll just carry it. If it's a full big, bank repo, and we'll need to be putting lots of money into it, then in that case, we'll usually do a promissory note with someone.
And then obviously when the refinance happens, what's the order that you pay out?
Yeah, so the order will be the first and second mortgages, right? Because the lawyers, they kind of take care of all of that. And depending on terms and lengths, let's say, or terms, I'm looking for another word there. But let's say we had a 1-year term. We'll ask them. We'll say, hey, we just refinanced right now. Here are the funds. Do you want to keep going? Do you want to add it on? And they might say, well, we have 6 months left. Let's wait and pay me back then because I want to keep making interest. So it's working with the lender. Some of them will say, okay, let's clear up. Let's square up. Sorry. And let's do it again. And let's say we had 6 months left. Now that you've shown me the ability to repay, let's do a 2-year term. Same thing, 2-year term. So it's so important to work with people.
And I will say this little pro tip here on the side is that if you do decide, so if let's say, okay, it's time to pay them back, and they agree to lend you the money right away to do something else with it, actually do pay them back. Like do that transfer of funds. So if you're using somebody's, let's say, promissory note with somebody, and it was $100,000, and for 1 year, for example, okay, you pay them back with interest. And they say, no, keep my, and this happens to us all the time, keep the money. I want to keep, you're making me money. I'm happy with you guys. I want to just keep investing. We will literally say, no, I want to show you that I have the money. I'm going to pay you back, do that, and then bring it back. And I think it truly builds that trust, because now it's no longer of, oh, could they really afford to, pay you back?
Why are they rolling it over?
Why are they rolling it over? No, let's finish this transaction and start fresh. And again, it just builds that trust with the lenders.
Yeah, it's really smart. I like that you actually show tangible things that you give them back, and then they can re-advance it if they'd like. But it definitely is a psychological thing for investors. Money.
It is. And we've had some lenders that lend us X amount of money, and they're like, that's all I'm willing to ever invest. And then we paid them back. And then once we did it, well, just to let you know, I do have extra money I didn't want to tell you about.
Exactly. This happened 2 months ago. Let's say Mrs. Investor. Yeah. She had lent us 30 or 40K for a fund to flip type thing. And we had the money, and she said, you want to do it again? And I said, yeah, but let's pay you back. And she said, no, I trust you. And I said, no, let's do the 30,000 plus the interest owed to you. Let me put it back in your bank account. And then let's have a conversation if you want to do it again. And the exact same thing. We get on the phone, we get on Zoom 2 weeks later. By the way, Dave, I have another 100. So she ends up lending us 140 because now that trust has been built. And another guy we met with at the restaurant a couple of weeks ago, same thing. It was $100,000. We paid him back. Weeks later, we meet again. He gave us the same 100, but now the terms are better. Now the interest lowers because the trust is there. Now the reporting requirements, all that stuff changes. So just building that rapport is priceless.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, let's. I want to ask you guys about this because I've seen you talk about it many times, and I've never got the full story. Tell me about this car accident that you had and how it changed everything that you do and the outlook you have on your life.
Yeah, it was a life-changing day for so many reasons. We were on our way actually to a real estate investing conference, and Dave and I were in the back of the vehicle working away on our laptops, and our SUV got hit by a car that got hit before that by a careless transport driver. We hit the guardrail and literally rolled 4 times across the highway. We landed upside down. You may have seen the picture. The vehicle was completely crushed, and we barely survived. And thankfully, the 3 kids weren't with us. So it's just Dave and I. And it was a life-changing day for so many reasons. I remember they took us by ambulance, of course, to the hospital. And I remember sitting there, and I was actually thinking about work even. I don't know why, but it kept coming to my mind thinking, oh gosh, I don't want to have to worry about ever traveling for work or doing anything like that. And it made me realize I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be working for somebody else. And of course, we're thinking about the kids and all that stuff. That weekend, or the same day, actually, we were released. We still ended up going to the real estate investing conference. And before then, we were so secretive on how we bought these properties. Like, how did we buy all these properties? People used to ask us, and we were very secretive. And then we thought to ourselves, why are we not helping other people achieve financial freedom through real estate? Why are we being so secretive? So it was a complete shift in how we used to think. We decided to write a book that weekend. Afterwards, I was off with a severe concussion for a while, and again thinking about work, and I decided to quit my full-time job. So I never went back after my accident. And the only reason I was able to do that was because we already had a real estate portfolio. So it truly gave me the freedom to do what I want. I wanted to see my little kid get on and off the school bus. And that's what we do now, is that we help other real estate investors who want to buy multifamily without their own money create the same thing. Sorry, I didn't leave much for you to say
You
there, Dave.
pretty much nailed it. I got nothing to say.
Anything else
No.
to add, Dave?
It's such a phenomenal story. I think a lot of us have probably had those moments on a much smaller scale, right? Where we just realize whatever we're doing right now is not necessarily what we want to do. And what do we have to do to make that switch to become full-time real estate investors and to create that financial freedom that we truly desire. So I love your story. I love everything you guys are doing. I'm going to leave a link in the description below, because you guys are on Instagram and on Facebook, and you've got your YouTube channel, and you've got your website, and you've got your trainings and everything that you're doing. So I'm going to make sure we leave that information for everybody below. I just want to kind of close out with asking you guys to give us a bit of advice for folks that are looking to do similar things to what you're doing. How do they get started? Obviously, with probably the biggest thing is going to be education and training. But beyond that, what's a sort of a first step in going along this path of using OPM, owning things outright?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start, and then you can, or do you want to start, Dave, so I don't take over again?
Mine's going to be short and sweet. So.
Okay, I tend to talk a little more sometimes. Honestly, I would say yes, of course, education, all that, so you can do it right. But don't stop yourself and don't use excuses. Even when I started, I was a single mom living in a 2-bedroom apartment and thinking like, how am I ever going to get out of this mess? And it's doable. And the reality is everybody is limitless. Everybody can do it. You just have to get that knowledge and take action. So if you're scared, take action. If you're scared, get educated and just keep moving and making progression every single day. If you're working full time, you don't have time, that half an hour or an hour consistently does add up to a lot.
And then mine, a lot shorter, a lot sweeter. It's just because it's something that affected me in the beginning, was the naysayers, that upset stomach of, should I be listening to them? Are they right? Putting all those terrible thoughts in your head, and then having that breakthrough of, why am I listening to someone who hasn't done what I want to do, who hasn't accomplished something? So just don't listen to naysayers. Listen to people that are more successful than you, because they're going to tell you, hey, it's doable, and go for whatever you want in life.
I love it. Thank you guys so much for taking some truly valuable time out of your day. I really do appreciate that. I know that the audience will appreciate this interview for sure. You guys dropped so much gold. If you guys enjoyed this session today with Mel and Dave, go ahead and hit the like button below. You can also subscribe to my channel, and feel free to leave comments and questions below for us. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or check out my website at darrenboros.com. With that, I'll say, Mel, Dave, thank you so much for joining me. I wish you guys the best of success on your real estate investing journey, and hopefully our paths will cross at some point soon, and we'll maybe one day be in the same room again like we met years ago back in North Bay. And I just look forward to following you guys in your journey, and I know you guys are going to do some amazing things in the next little while.
Thanks
Awesome.
so much.
Thank you
and
so
you're
much,
wonderful as well. We always love watching your content as well. So thank you so much, and keep crushing it as well.
Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
On today's episode, we're going to be bringing on my boy JQ, and he's going to be talking about how he got his first house. You might not believe it, but it's actually true. What's up with you guys? How you doing? How you been? If you did not know by now, my name is DJ, and this is The DNA Show. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, man. Join the family, join the squad. You already know what to do. Drop a comment down below if you are new to the family, so I can give you a warm welcome in the comment section. I'm excited today, so we gotta drop a like on this video, because you already know that helps the algorithm oh so much. So with that being said, let's go ahead and introduce my boy JQ right here. I don't know if we should give him his government name yet, not just yet. We're gonna call him JQ. He's gonna be the superstar today.
How goes it? JQ. I've known DJ a while. A long while. And so Portland, Oregon, raised, born, I'm 28. I'm an aspiring billionaire. So whatever it takes. That's why I hang out with DJ. He has all the money.
Chill. So, as you guys know, this is my boy. If you guys haven't seen him before, I don't know what you guys are doing. Go check out some old videos or follow me on IG. You already know this is my dog. Today, we're going to be talking about money. This is why you guys clicked on it. You read the title. That is actually true. And we're going to tell you how he did it. But the first thing first, I want to talk about just the first year of before you got the house, before you found about the loan, all those different things. Just talk about the market, the state of mind, you know, college, whatever. Just talk about that for a second.
All right, so I graduated college 2014. I got a crappy apartment like everybody does, 2 bedrooms. They didn't fix nothing. It was like $800 a month, but it was, you know, I'm on my own. So
Right.
I lived that first year out of college in that apartment, and then I work in the real estate industry, kind of, sort of, and I was just seeing these houses, and I'm like, I really want to buy a house, but I don't know nobody who owns a house like that. And so I kind of kept kicking the can, and then I went that, like, on the 1 year mark, actually, after my lease, I re-signed it. I went and got pre-approved for FHA loan like everybody else does, and I thought I was in the win. I'm like, okay, let's go, and I was up for an uphill battle. So that first year, I think I lost out on 12 houses where I put in offers. Full offers. I wasn't going over, but I put in full. Some I kind of shorted.
Portland,
But
Oregon, market booming,
it was crazy. This was 2015-ish in that era.
and it was popping.
And people were paying $40,000 to $50,000 over asking.
Yeah.
And I ain't have
Yep.
it. I didn't.
It's like, I'll give you ask, but I ain't gonna give you 40 over.
I don't got it. And so I was just like, all right, whatever. And then life happened. I was doing FHA, so you need 3.5% down. I was gonna probably spend $275. So I was probably gonna come out of pocket like $13,000, $14,000, closing costs and everything. Then things just go wrong. My car breaks. I got to spend a couple $1,000s out of the, like, you know, there's just things in life happen. So I end up losing a good portion of my money from my house. So now I'm like, what am I about to do? And see, I was like, well, I know I'm stronger with the help of the people I care about, and, you know, I know they got my back. So I hit DJ and actually hit a brother of mine, and I'm like, look, I'm trying to buy this house. I got some money, but the bank wants to see some more money. And I know the more money I have, then I'll be able to, you know, get this loan. And so I borrowed this money from them, and I'm like, I pay it back, you know, I pay it back with interest. And that's just, and it's not that he asked for the interest, it's just, I took the money from him, so he wasn't able to make anything with that money while I had it. So the least I can do is give him something back for him letting me use the money, and my brother as well. And so I then was like, okay, I'm ready to get the house again. And then I found out about the loan. So that's how it all changed.
Yeah.
So it was kind of it was an interesting period.
So the loan, what is this loan? Talk about, what do you call it? How do you get it? Just break the whole loan down, because that's gonna be the meat and potatoes of the video right there.
So everybody does the money match programs. You know, you put $1,000, they match you 2 or 3, and you know, you build your savings up, which is really good for building up money. I'm not saying don't do that. That's a really good method. But I always had a problem with, like, you know, I'm like, I didn't like PMI, which you'll learn about. I mean, if you're looking to buy a house, you know, you pay that. And
Right.
what that is you're paying an insurance to the bank to give you a loan for the house. And I'm like, why am I giving the bank $250 a month that if I don't pay this house, they're just gonna take my house anyway?
And you can just bet on yourself.
Precisely.
Right.
So I'm like, I wasn't feeling that off the rip. And then I was like, I started looking at down payments. And then when I found out about this program loan, they were like,
Yeah, you can do 0 down.
and I'm like, 0 down? They just told me 15,000. What you mean 0 down? And they're like,
Nah, you can really.
and I'm like, all right, they come to the class. So I went to this credit union in Portland. I went to the 2-hour class, and they're like,
Look, you can put this much money. You can do a 5% conventional. You can do a FHA 3.5. You can do a 3%, or you can do 0.
and I'm like, why would anybody not put 0 down? I'm like, that don't make sense. And so I was like, okay, well, let's look into the 0. So they were like,
Well, the difference is because you're putting 0 down, your interest will be higher, but you don't have to pay a PMI on it.
and I'm like, wait, back up. No PMI?
Right.
They're like,
Nah, no PMI, but you have a higher interest.
so I'm just keeping this all in the back of my mind.
Because that's like countering the money.
Precisely.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, you can always refi later. So I'm like, you can refi later and not have a PMI, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. So then I was in the process of doing all this, looking at the numbers, and they're like,
If you put $15,000 down on this $250,000 house, or if you put $0 down, your difference of payment is $60.
I said,
Sorry,
like,
zero.
I'm looking this way because he was sitting next to me, and I'm like, $60? I'm like, oh, nah. But it wasn't 0 down because you're like,
Well, you gotta pay closing costs.
I'm like, okay. They're like, it'd be probably like $6,000. So I'm like, okay. But down payment wise, the percentage you 0%. So I'm like, cool. That was my introduction to the loan. I didn't do it yet. I just had heard about it. And when I started talking to people about it, they're like,
Nah, no way, bro. Like, you're getting the PMI, there's no, like,
these people are like, now I'm talking to people around my work and all that who have mortgages, and everybody's a naysayer. They're like, oh,
oh, nah, that's too good to be true. Like, you're about to get scammed.
I mean, it's a big bank. It's not like some, you know, mom and pop bank. It's a huge, you know, credit union.
Right.
So I wasn't worried worried, but I was like, everybody's over here like,
There's no way you're about to do this.
and I think they was low-key nervous that I was about to do it, and they put all that money down. Because then I did it. And so,
Because a lot of people always say, well, I mean, you can look at buying a house in so many different ways, right? Some people say,
Well, you should put 30 or 40% down, get a better interest rate, pay it off sooner.
some people want to pay it out sooner. Some people have a strategy of like, take that low interest rate and have higher debt on other things. Like, there's so many different factors. So for you, no interest on this, be able to get an asset that you can now pay a little bit extra or potentially maybe less based off the counter and other numbers. Like, it's just a perfect situation for you right now.
oh, it gets better. When I found my house, it was $250,000, and I was like, I could have bought more house. I was pre-approved for more, but I was like, this is my first house. I know I'm gonna rent it out later in life. I don't want a high mortgage.
Right.
So I found this townhouse, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. It was my realtor sent it to me at $250, and I was like, I don't want it. And so then a couple months go by, because you're gonna look at hundreds of thousands of properties as you're looking. So I'm looking at all these properties.
And you're putting offers in on other stuff?
Other stuff. I'm looking at other houses getting outbid still. They got, the bag was serious this summer. Like, I mean, they're coming cash offers, 50 above.
Yo, it was crazy.
Early close.
It was
So
crazy.
think about this. I was coming saying,
There was houses going up for a day. Remember, they was like literally less than a day.
yeah, bro. And it's like, I would come to them like, here, I want to finance your house. Let's do all this paperwork, 30 days. Somebody was like,
I got cash and I'm gonna give you 30,000 more than he gonna give you.
Right now.
so I understood,
Yeah.
but it was like, okay. So then when I found this house, my house that I ended up buying, it was $229. It was like $227 actually. And so I'm like, okay. So I sent to my realtor. He's like, I already sent you that house. I'm like, oh yeah, but it's $23,000 cheaper. And so then we went to go look at it. I'm like, I want it. And so we started all the paperwork and the negotiations. So I'm like, tell the seller I want $7,000 in closing costs. And the house was $230,000. The closing cost wasn't $7,000, but I wanted $7,000. That was the number I wanted, so I asked for $7,000. And my realtor was like, bro, I don't know. It's a hot market. They not really like. I'm like, bro, we doing it, bro.
Right.
He was like, I'm rocking with you. I'm representing you. I got your best interest, but I want to let you know they might not. So he let me know. Guess what? They took it. They gave me the house for $229,500, right? So I put 2.5 on the loan, which is $229,500, but they gave me $7,000 in closing costs. And I didn't need all of it. So guess what I got to do? I bought that rate down. So I bought my interest APR down with some money that wasn't even mine. So now I don't have to pay that closing cost that the banker said. So I'm like, hey, my loan officer. I'm like, what do I owe y'all then? He's like,
Oh, you just pay for your inspection.
my
That's it?
inspection. I'm like, the one, like the make sure I ain't got termites and all that. They're like, yeah. So I paid that $340. All the rest of the money I had was in the bank. They put my money in the escrow and all these other places. Like, they took the money from me. They took about $10,000 from me out of my bank accounts. And so I spent this $340 on the inspection. The bank paid for my appraisal. And so I go through the whole process. I'm signing all my closing documents, and I'm out $10,000, but I'm also not out 13 or 14. So I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. Like, I didn't spend all of what they said I was gonna spend. Like,
Right.
I was fine with that, but I was like, this ain't really zero down. Like, I'm like, they did get me on the cause I'm signing these papers, I ain't got my money. And so then I signed the last paper. You signed 1,000 papers.
Bruh.
The loan officer was like, how would you like your money back? I'm like,
Reggie?
wire it. She's like, wired a paper check. I'm like, you can wire it. I kid you not. I left the closing office. I got on the freeway, went back to my 2-bedroom apartment that I was packing up, getting up out of there.
Yep.
All my money was back in my account, dollar for dollar. And see, the thing is like, I'm not saying don't put a down payment down, but think if I would have put $50,000 down on that house, right? My payment wasn't gonna go. It would have went down $100, $80. But now look at what we're going through right now.
Right.
That $50,000 would have meant more to me today than it would have meant for $80 a month.
Yep.
So that was my biggest thing. It's like, I could put a huge down payment. No, I couldn't. I was out of money. But if I could have put a huge down payment down,
Right.
I still wouldn't have, because you don't have that money to do anything with now. So, and then I'm not gonna lie to you. When you buy a house, when you go through it the first time and you look in and you want to buy it, it's perfect. You get the
Right.
keys to the house, you're like, oh, bro, they didn't cheaped out on this.
Right.
And the first month, I spent $2,000 on fixing the HVAC, and I had to buy a brand new dishwasher. And if I would have spent my $15,000, if I gave it every dollar of them, I would have been washing dishes by hand until I could have afforded to buy.
Right, because you wouldn't have been able to
'cause
afford for that stuff.
Precisely, you still got to go pay the mortgage. Then you got all the bills you start paying that you ain't never paid before.
Yep.
So it's like, but see, because I didn't do that, I didn't put all this money down, I didn't have to worry about it because I had access to money.
Please drop a comment down below, ask questions, and we will try to finish videos for you guys as well.
I want y'all to ask for a longer video so I can tell you how I spent that $340. and I got 80,000 in equity right now in that house. Now I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna take this money, go buy some more property, and redo it again, and I'm not putting nothing down.
Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Yo, we gotta do these more often.
I'm ready to give it to the world, bro. You
gotta let it go, man.
I did all this research. Everything I'm telling you, you don't have to believe me, but I'm just telling you, I didn't really, hours, nights, I didn't go to sleep doing all this research. But now that I've done it, I didn't put probably 10 people in houses, help them do it. I didn't, now, don't get me wrong, I ain't giving no money out. But everything I done studied, I got you.
You got any closing remarks?
The smartest thing I could do is bet on myself. And also, I think the biggest hurdle is knowing that you can actually do it.
Yep.
I didn't have anybody in my family that I can go talk to. So you have to see it for yourself, even when it doesn't look like it's possible. So that's the biggest takeaway from this is before you can even buy a house, you have to see that it's possible for yourself to own that house that doesn't even exist yet. And then you walk into it.
Well, that's it right there. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. You already know what I'm saying. I'm out. I got to go. I'm gone. Peace. Yo, I just want to say thank you for each and every one of you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. As you know, I really appreciate you guys' support. I know it's only like 4 of you guys watching right now, but that's still cool. You guys made it to the end. We got a comment of the day today. What is the comment of the day going to be today?
Let's do equity.
Equity is the comment of the day. If you don't know about it, go look it up. If you do, drop a comment down below in the comment section. Also, don't forget to check out the comment pinned in the comment section. That link right there will get you opt-in to learn more about the course. I'm excited to have you guys there as well. We will be managing the course in the private Facebook group, so make sure you get involved in that as well, and we will help you out on financial investing. You know, all those fancy things that you like to call it. All right, y'all, we out.
I've built significant wealth with real estate investing, and you can do the same. The best part is that you can do this with other people's money. But what about that saying that you have to have money to make money? Well, this is true, but that's only the first part of the expression. The second part is, it doesn't have to be your own money. In this video, I'll break down 4 ways to invest in real estate using none of your own money. Stick around until the end of the video where I'll share some exciting news with you about how you can get started using these 4 strategies. Hey, what's up? Darren Voros here. My mission is to help 1,000 people create $1 million of net worth with real estate investing. Subscribe not to miss what's coming. The most common question that I get with first-time investors is, how much money do I need to get started in real estate? And the answer is none, if you use the right strategies. The problem is, most people don't know these strategies exist, or they don't know how to execute them. So if lack of capital or money is your barrier to real estate investing, it's time to take those barriers away. Learn and perfect these 4 strategies until you do have your own money, and then you can switch up your investments. But for now, focus on ways to make money without using your money. Number 4 is wholesaling. In wholesaling, a wholesaler contracts a home with a seller, then finds an interested party to buy it. The wholesaler then contracts the home with the new buyer at a higher price than with the seller and keeps the difference as profit. This is very common practice in the business world, and we do it in the real estate world as well. Think about any product you buy on Amazon. The seller of that product bought the product at wholesale value and then is selling it at retail and keeping the profit. In real estate, we do the same, but we don't have to purchase the property and pay for it. We can simply get the property under contract with a seller, ideally under market value, and then turn to a potential buyer and sell it to them. This strategy works really well if the new buyer is still purchasing the property under market value as well. It's good for the wholesaler because they make a fee for finding the opportunity and bringing it to the buyer, and it's good for the end buyer because they are still getting a property under market value. Wholesaling fees can range anywhere from $1,000 to $100,000. It really depends on the market, the property, and what value the wholesaler is able to get the property under contract for in relation to the fair market value. This strategy is also very risk averse if done properly because the wholesaler has a conditional offer with the seller, and if they cannot find a suitable buyer, they back out of the deal with no repercussions. There is one caveat that I should mention, and that is that in most cases, a deposit will need to be placed to the seller in some provinces and states. So you may need some form of cash or credit to get you through that conditional time. This can range depending on the price of the house and the expectations of the seller. I've seen deposits as low as $500. So even if you had to put that on a credit card for 14 to 21 days, the interest on that would be very minimal. Number 3 is a vendor takeback. A vendor takeback is when a seller of a property is willing to hold temporary or long-term financing on a property that they are looking to sell. Why would a seller want to hold financing on their own property if they're looking to sell? Well, there are many different reasons that may present themselves. There are benefits to sellers from a tax perspective where they get to defer profits. There are also benefits to a seller if they plan to take the proceeds of the sale and invest them. A buyer may be able to offer them a higher rate of interest than what they might get elsewhere. Plus, there's the added benefit if the buyer defaults on the seller financing loan, the seller can take back the property, which they are already familiar with because they have owned it for some time. The benefits of seller financing for a buyer are that they can potentially get financing for a large portion of the purchase from the bank, perhaps 75 to 80% loan to value, and the remaining 20 to 25% required to purchase the property can come from the seller, so they may not need to have any of their own capital invested in that transaction. Most buyers who use seller financing plan to lift the value of the property through renovation or by optimizing revenue, and after a period of time would do a refinance of the property, pay out the seller financing loan, and hold the property ongoing with potentially no money invested. Number 2 is raising capital. There are various real estate transactions that you could raise money for. An apartment building purchase, a development project, or even something as simple as a flip. On our 8-unit conversion projects that we're doing in Toronto, we use equity partners to finance the transaction. This is sometimes referred to as syndication, where we're bringing together a group of investors to invest in a project. By bringing in a group of investors, that allows the investors to contribute a smaller amount of money than if there was a single investor. This also allows them to diversify their portfolio by investing in multiple transactions instead of putting all of their eggs in one basket. As an investor who is raising the capital, it allows me to use other people's money to complete the project, and I bring my expertise and experience to the table on a larger transaction that most investors would not tackle on their own. Now, this may not be something that you do as your very first transaction, but as you get more comfortable as a real estate investor, it's definitely something you're going to want to look at. There are rules to raising capital though, so make sure you understand them fully before going out and raising money. Check out this video on 7 ways that you can raise capital after you watch this video. The other benefit of larger transactions like this is that we often include fees like acquisition fees and management fees. And therefore, as a syndicator, I'm able to get paid at the beginning of the transaction and throughout the transaction and charge those fees back to the projects. So not only am I making money on the project, but I also don't have any capital invested. Before you find out about the final strategy, let me invite you to something that will accelerate your real estate investing success. In my level 1 and level 2 masterclass, I will elaborate on these strategies and give you the exact framework to executing these methods so that you can avoid failure. To find out more about getting registered for one of the upcoming sessions, you can check out my website at darrenboros.com/courses. And the number 1 way to invest in real estate with none of your own money is joint venture partnering. A joint venture partnership is when 2 parties come together to purchase a property. While there are many different structures that a joint venture partnership can take on, the most common scenario is that there is a working partner and a money partner. The working partner is someone who's going to lend time to the transaction, and the money partner is the one who is lending the money. That's why they are called the money partner. The working partner might be someone willing to go out and find the transaction, deal with the renovation, put the tenants in place, manage the property, and deal with any ongoing issues related to the tenants and the property itself. That is going to require a lot of time, so the working partner may be willing to exchange their time for not having any of their own money invested. The good news is that for every working partner out there, there's usually a money partner who wants the exact opposite. They want to invest in the real estate market, but they may not have the time or the expertise to do so. So they're looking to partner with someone who can manage the transaction. You can see why this is so beneficial to both parties in this situation. And if you, as the working partner, have a specialized skill, such as you're a contractor, realtor, or property manager, there may be tremendous opportunity to build a real estate portfolio without having any of your own money invested. As you can see, there are many different ways that we can invest in real estate without using any of our own money. So if that's been your barrier for entry into the real estate market, you can take that that barrier away, learn how to perfect these strategies, and go out there and start investing with other people's money. If you have questions related to investing in real estate with none of your own money or other real estate investing related questions, feel free to drop those in the comments section below. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram where I post regularly. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Everybody, Darren Voros here. Today I'm with Sarah Eder, and Sarah and I are going to dive into talking about all things OPM, which means other people's money and joint venture partnering. Sarah is an expert on this topic, and I'm so glad she's taken some time out of her day to join us and walk us through what she uses every day in her real estate investing business. Before we get into it with Sarah, if you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and please feel free to leave comments and questions below for me. And without further ado, let's get into it. Sarah, thanks so much for being here and joining us. Why don't you give everyone a little bit of a background on who you are and what you do as a real estate investor?
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be on today. So I am a full-time professional investor. I've been investing for about 3 years now in the GTA. So we work a little bit in the Golden Horseshoe, Brantford, Hamilton, and Niagara. We focus mainly on multifamily, some flips and development, and we focus on the BRRRR strategy. So mostly rundown houses. We rent them, renovate them, refinance, and again, often all using other people's money. That's my specialty, doing that with joint venture partners, private capital. And we've built over a 7-figure portfolio in a fairly short time doing that.
And are you predominantly using other people's money almost exclusively now? Or are you putting in some of your own money into the transactions, or how are things working for you?
This is, I think, like the best part of my story. I've never put a cent of my own money into any of our deals.
All right, well, let's talk about that, because I think that's truly unique, especially when people are starting out, because I know there are a lot of people that don't have necessarily a lot of capital to invest in real estate. And one of the things that I always say is you don't necessarily need capital. You do need to bring something to the table. So what did you bring to the table in the beginning when you didn't necessarily bring capital?
That's an excellent question. And it's great for, like you said, like the viewers that maybe are younger, don't have a lot of capital saved up. You can bring a lot of skills to the table that will be super beneficial to your money partners. I was quite young. I was 26 when I got started. Typical millennial, didn't have a lot of cash, didn't have a lot of much else to bring to the table, but time and energy. But I also got experience with a property management company. So I learned not just about the tenants in general, but, home inspections on big commercial buildings I was a part of. I got to learn about renovations, maintenance, upkeep of these larger buildings, how we build utilities, really practical everyday stuff about running these multis. And so for me to, kind of take that knowledge, go in, raise some money and say, yeah, you know what? I'm confident. I know how to find tenants for these. I know how to maintain them. I know how to evaluate them. I had about 1.5 years of experience doing that with another company.
So tell us about your first transaction. What was the property? How did you find your joint venture partner?
Yeah. So this is actually the greatest story, because I had just kind of like learned about JVs, and I had still been working for that property management company. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I want to get my first, I was hungry, ready to go. So I started about 3 years ago, and that's before the market was totally bonkers. So I was still going to a lot of open houses on Kijiji, trying to find some off-market deals. I was trying to make that my niche, again, to provide an extra layer of value to my clients. I said, okay, I'm young. I don't have much else besides my property management experience, but you know what? If I can get them a great off-market deal for a good price, that will also kind of be extra enticement for them. So I was at an open house one weekend in Brantford, and I met with the home owner himself, and he was actually a landlord. He owned 15 student rentals in the area, and he had owned them for like well over a decade. And he himself was a working partner with like his friends and family, and he had this whole portfolio, and he was the property manager. And he was like, so we're chatting a little bit what I did and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, oh, he's like, that's exactly what I did for the past 10 years. I'm at the point of retirement. I want to liquidate these things because I want to move to Florida. I want to like be a snowbird, and I'm just sick and tired of dealing with these tenants and all this kind of stuff. And I was at a point where like, I wasn't confident, like I didn't have a lot of cash, and I wasn't really 100% sure about how JVs worked yet. So I kind of just proposed to him and said, okay, well, how about this? I'm getting started on my portfolio. I have the time, I have the energy, I have the ambition. We basically traded equity for my time because he was already on title, but he needed time, freedom. He wanted to get out of this thing. So we basically, kind of worked at this like JV where he gave me a portion of the equity to start to take over all the day-to-day maintenance and tenanting of the property.
So did you become a part owner of all of his entire portfolio at that point?
Just that one property. The other ones he liquidated with his partners. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was such a great segue into it, getting to learn the ropes. He was really patient with me, took a lot of chances. I look at him as kind of like my angel investor, because without him, like he really took a bit of a chance on this like young kid that like didn't have much of a track record, right? So
yeah. And I think that's a lot of us need that first sort of lift into the real estate
boost.
world, if we getting started. Tell us about where you went from there. I know that you've done a lot of this, and we'll kind of skip forward because I know that right now you're doing multiple transactions and you're bringing multiple joint venture partners and you're scaling your business very efficiently. So how did you go from, that point kind of there? Give us an overview of how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah. I'm definitely the type of person that, as much as I like to try to follow like a linear growth pattern, I'm also very ambitious. And so from there, a lot of people say, oh, stick with single families and duplexes and then jump into multis. Well, I realized really fast, because this was just a single family house. It's like a 5-bed student house. I didn't like it. It was a lot of maintenance, 5 kids in one house. And I was like, you know what? My experience is in multis. Let's just go get some multis. And I'm pretty sure my second transaction was a 5-plex. So, because I just kind of like, I'm already used to handling multiple tenants. And I always tell this to people just getting started. Don't get intimidated by having a duplex or a triplex. It's honestly in some ways no different than managing a single family home, provided you're confident with the utilities, the tenant screening process. If you have that foundation, running a 4-plex versus a single family, it's not much different. And so what I did is, once I finally got that one under my belt, I started doing some online marketing. So I started to get really active on social media. I started up a YouTube channel, started, kind of showcasing what I was working on, and then doing still a lot of off-market campaigns in Brantford. So I was finding these kind of rundown deals for really great discounts, and kind of piqued the interest of people. They're like, wow, she's really active on social. We can see what she's doing. She's bringing these great deals. And so from there, it just kind of like snowballed. And I was just finding deal after deal, these like large, like kind of mid-sized multis, and we just renovated them, improved the rents, refinanced, and just kind of continued on from there. So.
How did you start with social media, and tell us and tell everyone who wants to get in that what your motto is and your formula for just getting content out there?
That's a great question. So I would say, I'm a millennial, so I think like social comes fairly naturally. I was like that era born with like Facebook and everything, right? But that being said, I still found that I needed a bit of education and training. I took marketing in school. So I knew like the marketing fundamentals, and I knew that especially for a kid getting started with very little track record, that I had to stand out somehow. It's like, if I'm not a veteran, I don't have this huge portfolio that I can just say, yeah, don't, trust me, I've done this for 10 years. I didn't have that. I thought, okay, like what else can I do to get people to know me, see me, trust me? So I started a bunch of like educational channels. So I started doing like webinars and teaching people about private capital, teaching people about the BRRRR strategy, kind of like attracting attention that way, more by taking like this kind of educational approach. And I actually ended up taking a lot of non-real estate focused marketing training. I spent a lot of money on myself, like in the beginning of my portfolio, because, I thought I need to invest in myself if people are going to invest in me. And so I took like social media marketing, email marketing courses, Instagram courses, just to get really savvy about what I should be posting when. And because there are small little tips and tricks that definitely do help your following and help that kind of stuff. But one thing that always stuck with me is exactly what you're talking about. It's the brand and the image that you bring to the table. And for people just getting started, you don't have to have all the fancy bells and whistles. You don't have to have the most expensive website or the best business cards or a fancy YouTube camera setup or anything like that. I think people just get intimidated. They think, oh my gosh, how am I going to compete with this guy? You know, he spends $20,000 a month on video editing and stuff. People actually like seeing the real you. They like seeing your genuine personality. They like kind of seeing behind the scenes, a little more unscripted. They want to know who you are. Yeah, the numbers and the deals are important, but I think if you really just go out there and start to show people what you stand for, what you're interested in, like all that kind of more personal stuff, you'll get a more engaged following a lot faster.
And did you find right away when you went onto social media that you had a bit of uptick in people connecting with you? Or did it take some time? And how did you start to foster those relationships?
Yeah, I think that's also a good question. I think people think that, hey, I've got the YouTube channel, I've got the Instagram account, where are my followers? Like, they're just supposed to be following me. And no, I mean, it was a few months of like, I call it like grinding, you know, showing up every day, posting. And I always tell my students that sometimes it feels like you're yelling into the void when you first start on social. You feel like you're putting in all this effort. You're just like, hello, like, is anybody out there actually listening to me? Because it's just not how like the algorithms work on social. It's not that you just start an account and all of a sudden you get a bunch of followers. You have to be consistent. You have to track your results. And I think that the more you can leverage other people's followings, that's when you really start to kind of trick and override the system. So I got smart. I started going to networking events and being like, hey, I saw you on a podcast, and like trying to get on other people, like just like today, for example, like, you know, getting on people's YouTube channels, getting on other people's podcasts and getting seen that way, really started to bump up my following. And then from there, you know, now I had a foundation and people stayed because they enjoyed me and shared my content and things like that. But sometimes you do have to inject a little bit into it through other people's followings or paid Facebook advertising, stuff like that, to really kind of boost up, you know, what's going on. Yeah, my cat just jumped on my thing.
All right, my dog's barking in the background too, so it's all
Pet bonanza going on.
Let's get into specifics on social. Which ones do you like the best for real estate investors, and which ones do you use the most?
That's a great question. Yeah, and I tell people, like, obviously there's so many different platforms. I think that's also a super intimidating factor. They're like, I don't know, I heard TikTok's a thing, like maybe I need to get on TikTok or what. And, you know, I think we're always attracted to kind of like the shiny object syndrome. I think it's way more important that, like, if you are limited on time, especially if you have a 9-to-5 job and you're trying to phase into like becoming a full-time investor and you know, are really limited for the time, better to have quality content on 1 or 2 platforms and do it really, really well than try to do 100 different platforms. And I see people make that mistake a lot. So I'm really only on 3 platforms, which I know sounds like a lot, but I utilize my time smart. So I use Facebook and Instagram. Those are my favorite. And then YouTube. The reason I say to people, listen, if you're going to do Facebook, do Instagram, because Facebook purchased Instagram last year. And so now you can share content automatically between the 2 platforms. And that's what I say about, like, you know, saving time. Instead of me doing a post for, you know, YouTube and a post for this and a post for that, it's like, no, I do 1 post on Instagram, I share it on my Facebook. You know, I try to minimize how many posts I'm doing per day, because I can share them across multiple platforms. And I started doing that with LinkedIn actually as well. LinkedIn is kind of like the new platform, I would say, for investors like us, because, you know, we're really targeting professionals, people in corporations, you know, tend to be the people with the money. I mean, let's be honest, if you're going to go after professionals, I mean, what better place to network on than LinkedIn? And they now have kind of like a news feed, like the same way Facebook does. So same thing. I mean, I take some of my posts from Facebook, copy and paste, slap them on LinkedIn. There's a way you can be on these platforms, but you don't have to spend, you know, hours doing individual posts per platform.
What do you find is the most effective kind of post? Do you find that it's a a story? Is it a picture? Is it a video? I mean, I'm guessing it's like something with you. Is it, I know that I see your stuff and you're like, hey, realtors, I'm looking for 15 new properties this year. Like,
Get me some deals.
You know? Yeah, like what's the most effective way? I mean, I guess you could break it down in a couple different categories because we're talking about your marketing to essentially investors and also to, realtors and people bringing you off market deals. So how do you do those in separately? That's
a awesome question, because when I'm training people, because now I like train people on social, because so many investors are like, help me do what you do. You do, although you can share posts amongst platforms, you also have to be careful that you don't share every single post, like, because sometimes like different platforms are designed to be used in different ways. So I would say that like on Facebook, my most successful posts are the ones where I'm either sharing updates about my portfolio. Everybody loves a good before and after. And I feel like because Facebook is a very scroll happy social media app, people are there, they're like at the restaurant, you're sitting at your desk, you're bored, you're scrolling through Facebook fast. And so pictures are super eye-catching, or a short video. And I say short because if somebody's in the line at like the bank, they might only have 30 seconds to like watch something. So it could be a quick update. Hey, I'm at my reno project. Here's what's going on. Here's a walk through my latest completed project. Those ones tend to track really, really well and build what I call like awareness or credibility on my Facebook page. I usually get like hundreds of views unboosted. I don't pay ad money for that. Like that's just organic people checking in. Oh, her rental looks great. I get tons of comments and feedback. So I love doing that on Facebook. But I tend to advertise for deals, I guess, more on Instagram stories. Because again, the platforms are used in kind of slightly different ways, because I think we're trending more towards apps that prioritize video. And people now love Instagram stories because they're just 15-second little clips. They, flip, 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 flip. It's like for, you have that OCD, like you're just kind of going through people's lives. And that's where I feel like people get the most bang for your buck. Like it's just like a quick little, hey, I need this. Hey, I have this property available. Hey, check out my new course. Hey, for that type of stuff, I love Instagram stories. I try not to do super long videos on there because I just don't think it's utilized well on that platform. Go to a Facebook Live if you're going to do like a big interview or a big walkthrough. But if you're trying to catch someone's attention for something like, I need a deal, I need an investor, I need this, Instagram stories are amazing for that stuff. I get tons and tons of responses doing that.
So when people do reach out to you, what do you do from there? Are you connecting with them basically immediately? I know you have a protocol of like when somebody reaches out, is that connecting with them, trying to set up a meeting, or are you just getting on the phone, or what's the next step after you find somebody reaching out to you?
No, that's great. Like I'm a systems person. So for me, like whether that comes down to a renovation or how I collect phone numbers, I have protocol and systems because you get inundated really fast. And it's important that you're able to weed out right away people that, I don't want to say worth your time, because I believe everybody, like I get a lot of questions in general just about real estate investing, but even then I need to weed out who's an investor, who's trying to give me a deal, and who maybe needs some mentorship or coaching. So I kind of like plot them into 3 different categories. So if someone's just casually reaching out to me on social media that way, I try to first shove them into a consultation call so that they have to fill out like a little questionnaire about what they're interested in. And so that way I can decide, okay, how much time do I need to dedicate to this individual? How quickly do I need to follow up with them? Do I make them like a high priority? Because, hey, they're like, Sarah, I have $200,000. I really want to invest with you now. They kind of move to the top of the list. And then I can kind of funnel through my time accordingly. And like, again, it makes it really simple because I have an admin now and we have lots of people reaching out on a regular basis. This makes it really easy for people to help me schedule my calls. I always do a phone consultation first. I feel like it's just number 1, you want to build rapport with people, but number 2, I really need to get to like the nitty gritty of what they can do. Some people get a little ambitious. Sarah, I want to buy this like $700,000 triplex I see you had advertised. And then we talk and I'm like, I think you need to talk to a mortgage broker first before we move ahead to the next steps, or they have never been pre-approved before. And we kind of, okay, then I shove them over to, right, here's my mortgage broker, get a pre-approval first, then we'll kind of keep talking. So we definitely do have this like system. They need to get pre-approved. We have to verify funds, verify their identities, all that kind of stuff. Then I'll meet with them face to face to kind of talk next steps, potential opportunities we can work on, whether they're going to be a private lender or a JV partner on a rental. And then like, so yeah, I take my time. I want to make sure that they're prepared, they're educated on what's happening. My team makes sure that they have everything they need to be successful in the deal as well. So we make sure we kind of cross, you know, all of our T's in that situation.
When you were looking at branding in the beginning, or maybe this was just an organic progression for you, did you make a conscious choice to keep your brand as your name?
Oh yeah, I get asked that question a lot actually. Yeah, it was definitely a conscious choice. I knew right away that either I was going to go the track of such and such like S&E investment group, and then I'm going to just be behind my corp or whatever, or I was going to choose what I call the influencer model, which is you're the face front and center. And again, when I'm coaching people, they always ask me like, Sarah, do I have to choose the influencer model? I don't really want my face out there. I'm not really comfortable on video. It's totally a personal choice. You know, there's plenty of successful pages out there on Facebook that do the corporate thing. You know, they hide, I don't want to say hide, but like they stay behind the corporate logo, the corporate message. There's nothing wrong with that. For me, I'm not too camera shy, and I wanted to share my story and be personal and have that really one-on-one connection with my investors. So yeah, that definitely was like a conscious choice for me to say, no, I'll be available. I'll let my face be what it is. Now, if you choose that route, you're definitely opening yourself up to scrutiny. However, I found that over the past 2 years, as I gain notoriety and a little bit of infamy, if you will, whether that's disgruntled potential home sellers, like, you know, once your name is out there to the public, I mean, it's not always pretty. And I think that's why some people do want to keep it less personal, more corporate, because then, you know, you're not subject to so much like personal stuff.
Do you find that it's a benefit more than it, I mean, I'm guessing you do, otherwise you would have switched something up, but I'm guessing because it's so personal for you, people really truly feel like even though you have systems and you have people in place all over the place, they're investing with you and you're working together as a partnership.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, the amounts that are kind of annoying about being a personal face, it definitely, the benefits outweigh that. Because you're right. I do feel like when people call me, they say, Sarah, I called you because I feel like I know you. I have listened to you talk. I have watched your videos. I know about your backstory and your life. And I feel like they're almost like, I feel like you're a friend, you know, I feel like I really like get your life and what it is you're doing. And so I really feel like that's been a benefit overall.
What's your what's your biggest piece of advice for somebody getting into real estate investing that wants to use other people's money and they want to do that through social media? How do they get started?
The biggest point of advice that I can give you guys, because obviously I can talk all about the different tricks and tips on Instagram to get more followers, but that's not going to help you. I think in the beginning, what is the absolute most important for people just getting started is make sure you have a foundation. And we talked about this right at the very beginning. If you guys don't feel comfortable with construction or property management or property analysis, you need to find that level of expertise before you're raising capital. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very challenging to go to an investor and they say, okay, so-and-so, what do you bring to the table? You have to have a strength, whether you're a contractor, whether you are a mortgage agent or like something like that you feel like you're confident in one aspect of real estate investing that you can really confidently bring to the table. Spend your money there, spend the time. The branding stuff, you can take courses on that. You can figure out and train yourself to become a better social media marketer. But at the end of the day, you need that like expertise and that foundation before you go off and try to like raise money from people.
How many times a week do you post to your social stuff?
I try to post at least once a day on all my platforms. Yeah. It's just a ritual. You know, when you build it into your routine, like I'm an early riser. So if you're a night owl, do it at night. That's fine too. And schedule it for like the next morning. But I wake up at like 6 a.m. and I'll just, you know, before I do anything else, I'll just, you know, pump out a couple of posts, schedule them for the afternoon, and then I'm done for the day. So yeah.
I know you have tons of great resources on your website and your YouTube channel and everything. So I'm going to leave all of those in the description below.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to join us and just really walk through how you've built your business. I think it's truly inspirational. If you enjoyed this session with Sarah, go ahead and hit the like button below. You can also subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and feel free to leave comments and questions below for me. You can also check out my website and my Facebook and my Instagram. I'm also going to leave those in the description below. Sarah, thanks again for taking some time joining us. I really hope to connect with you at some point in person. We've done a couple of Zoom interviews and we've been chatting a little bit, but hopefully at some point I'll actually get to meet you face to face and get to share some more real estate investing stories.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing.
Thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Welcome back to Ask Austin Harley. Today we're going to be visiting one of my colleagues' rental properties that he just bought the other day. We're going to be going through the entire property to show you what we're going to do to it to make it a bulletproof rental like I've been talking about in my other videos. And I'm going to break down the numbers for how much he bought it, how he's going to rent it out, where he's going to find the tenants, so on and so forth, and I'm going to track the progress throughout. If you watched any of my other videos on YouTube, you've probably seen that I'm most of the time just standing in front of a whiteboard over here, but I wanted to switch it up a little bit. So I'm asking you a favor. If you see any content in this video that's kind of a drag that maybe is just not too exciting, then please leave it in the comment section, timestamp it, let me know so I can improve my videos, because I'm trying to make it more entertaining for you, the viewer, because standing in front of a whiteboard and teaching you something is only going to go so far, and I really want to give you some hands-on examples of what we're actually doing in the field. And like always, subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more content like this.
You sure?
Yep. Going harder. Alright, so we're getting ready to go to the rental property. Alright, so we're driving down to the rental property now, and something really significant about the way Devin bought this property is he got all of his closing costs covered. Heck, he even got paid to buy this house, which I'm going to explain later on in this video. But getting your closing costs covered is probably one of the most essential things whenever you're buying anything in real estate. Unless you're getting an extremely low, below market value house, you want to get all your closing costs covered. And closing costs consist of transfer taxes, attorney fees, title company fees, anything that I like to say goes straight to the trash and not into your pocket or into the equity of the house. So the goal of buying any type of real estate, this is extremely important, is that you want to pay directly towards the down payment of the house or directly towards into the equity, because obviously you want to build your wealth, and that's the reason that you're purchasing real estate. And then towards the end of this video, what I'm going to show you is how we accumulate our cash on cash return, because I believe that Devin bought this rental property to accumulate the most cash from the cash that he's putting out in this property. Like I stated in many of my other videos, one of the most important things that you can do whenever you're purchasing real estate, especially for investment purposes, is understanding the fact that if you come out of pocket $30,000, how fast from renting out this property or from flipping it can you get that money back? So stay tuned, we'll see you at the rental property soon. Alright, so we're here at the house. Devin, what's up, man?
How you doing?
How you doing? Alright, let's start. So, this is the rental property, it's under construction right now. Devin, why don't you give us a tour of the house, tell us what you're doing, and we can go from there. Devin, what are your plans on this kitchen? What are you going to do to it?
So basically it's super simple. I'm just going to remove this wall. There was already a wall right here that came down as a separator between the living room and the dining room and the kitchen here as well. And I'm going to remove the entire wall, open it up, scrape these popcorn ceilings out completely, get the kitchen going, and then run engineered floors on the ground here. Really a big reason why I'm replacing these cabinets. The lady, she had been here previously for over 40 years. So she had various different cabinets. They were really dirty and there really wasn't a lot of function to the kitchen. And nowadays a lot of people are looking for that in a rental. When you walk into these cookie cutter flips or whatever and you go in, you'll find in a lot of them there's only one drawer. And so where are you gonna put your silverware? So it's easy to think as like a landlord or a construction person or whatever, but you really have to think about the functional utility. Another reason why, as I started to dig things out in this house, I found a lot of those fogger, cockroach, killing cans and stuff like that. So once I started to peel back things little by little, I started to see a lot of these little brown spots. You can kind of see them in there as well. And I just really wanted to make sure everything was fresh and clean.
So one of the really cool things about this house that we liked is it had originally carpet throughout the whole house. Now, Devin has two options with this. If you're on a budget, you can just honestly sand these floors down, quickly refinish them, and then just run it hardwood throughout, which actually increases the value of the house. What would you do if you were just a starter landlord?
I probably wouldn't worry about taking any walls down. It might increase the appeal, but overall, as long as you're in a hot area, you can just make sure the paint's fresh, the flooring's clean, and you'll be able to rent it right out.
Alright, so these are actually the old cabinets, and just goes to show you, Devin might be a little bit excessive on what he's doing here, but if you are planning on renting out your house and your cabinets look decent like this, you can keep them, you don't have to replace them. But it's got a nice solid deck. The deck doesn't even really need a power wash. Got a really nice backyard for someone.
There's going to be 3 bedrooms and a bathroom as well. You'll notice there's wallpaper on the side here. A lot of people remove it, but it can be very costly. One thing you'll find is that in a lot of rentals, people actually end up painting over them, which is not the right thing to do. Yeah. However, it does work sometimes.
And the carpet's in really good condition if you want to get a shot of that. Honestly, if it were me renting, know your market, understand your area, I would get this carpet steam cleaned.
Yeah, so this is the full bath. One thing you'll notice, a lot of people think on the floor that that's like a dated 1950s look, but you'll find this really in a lot of homes now. This was popular in like the early 2000s and can easily be resealed.
Yeah, and then one other thing we want to know is to get your bathrooms market ready for rent is you want to make sure that everything is sealed, caulked up, and nice and clean, and that there's no leaks. I haven't got lucky on this one. It has tile all the way to the ceiling, so there's not going to be any wet stains. Tenants tend to damage anything that has to do with water, and this vanity is actually pretty decent. It really doesn't need anything. I always check under here to make sure there's no leaks or anything like that, and it's all solid. Good to go.
So you've got 3 bedrooms in the house. This is the smaller of the 3. Oftentimes when you buy these properties off market and below value, they like to leave a lot of their belongings. So
tiny.
Yeah, and that's why you've got a treadmill in here.
The home gym.
Yes, this is the home gym.
This is the master, right? This is the master bedroom?
This is the master bedroom as well. So definitely not going to need a ton of work. It already has a 6-panel door on the right there. Everything is pretty updated. Yeah, so actually all the trim in this house is already updated completely. You've got 6-panel doors. None of this is original to the house. There's maybe 1 door that I'll replace. As a landlord, if you're gonna replace any doors, I always tell people, get the closest thing to a solid core door as possible, because your tenants are gonna find ways to punch holes in the doors. If they lock the door, they don't think about sticking a little pin in there and unlocking it. They will just kick it in,
yeah,
and that'll be your life. So
really good point, really good point. So after all the construction is done, obviously Devin's gonna get the house professionally cleaned to get the tenants in. And the reason I note that is because you always wanna make sure that the filters are changed, that the vents are clean, because vents are one of the cheapest things we do. And this is actually the same thing we do whenever we sell our houses on the market. You wanna make sure that it just looks clean. I mean, the little details really do matter. So why don't we go check out the basement, Devin? Show us that, and we can go from there.
All right, so one of the challenges that I'm running into now as you come downstairs is for some reason they didn't build this house 2 feet wider. So when you get to the bottom of the staircase, you have to either step down to the right or to the left. And that can be kind of difficult because as you're trying to break things up and maximize your rental potential, really having complete privacy floor to floor is a big deal. But if you come this way, you have what will be 1 bedroom eventually, but to make it a legal bedroom, a window has to be cut in. For a beginner landlord, or it's not something that I would recommend.
That's a tanner?
Yeah, so I can tan my butt while I'm working on the house.
So one of the coolest things about buying rentals is you find really cool stuff.
Yeah, so I actually had my dad here who's really old, and he actually recognized some of these people, and I guess he's gonna take that out, but...
What did you buy this house for?
This house sold for $275,000.
Probably another 50 grand worth of collectibles.
Yeah.
Oh, well, let's talk about the elephant in the room. So what the heck is this?
So this is a wood stove, and it's actually a really nice wood stove. A lot of people don't understand how these work. From a functional perspective, these are actually your best bet for heating your home, because you can literally chop wood, toss it in, it circulates it. Another thing that you'll find is all the personal documents of the last person who lived here and all their mortgage statements. However, she forgot to actually burn them. And so with this actually being one of the most efficient ways to heat a home, problem is it completely takes up the space. Even though it might make the most sense from a fiscal perspective, I'm actually going to be cutting the pipe, filling the hole, and completely removing this wood stove, because otherwise there's really no use for this room.
Well, that actually kind of adds to it, because I think Devin's main point of this house is it's actually a rambler. It's just a regular ranch style house that's 2 levels, in-ground basement. And I believe you're going to be renting it per level, right?
Yes.
To get double cash flow? Yeah, so tell us, how are you going to do that?
So basically, one of the biggest things that I have to solve over there, which we'll get back to, is how to actually get access to both bedrooms without having to enter into the other person's space. But it's quite simple. The reason why I bought this house, or one of the biggest reasons, is it has a walkout basement. So you see this door right here. The tenants that end up ultimately renting this space, they're going to have their own private entrance, as well as their own private living space. One of the biggest things to look for as well is, does it already have a bathroom in the basement? Right over here you have a second full bathroom in the basement, and I don't know if you want to go in there and take a look at everything.
It's tiny.
Yeah, it's tiny. You've got a toilet and a sink, but hiding behind this door right here, you actually have a full stand-in shower that has ceramic tile from floor to ceiling. This is the utility room. What I'm ultimately gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to cut a door in right here to access that other bedroom. I'm gonna run a wall this way so that you'll have a bedroom with an egress, and then you'll have another bedroom on the other side with another egress that I will cut in as well. So it'll work out so that this whole space will be a hallway. It'll look really great, and I'll get it all set up. So great. So coming around the other side of the house here, we're gonna take a trip back to the detached garage here.
And another thing Devin's going to do to add value is extending this down to the garage right there.
And you can actually see at one point, it looks like they probably had some sort of driveway going back here, but they allowed it to get completely overrun.
Is he's going to add a either 1 or 2 car garage door to that, and either gravel, which is probably the cheapest, or add just a few feet of concrete down here to increase the rents. And I mean, how much are we looking at doing that?
Depends. I mean, if somebody's just gonna rent it, you can typically get in this area maybe $100 to $200 per month extra. But if you're fortunate enough to get a tenant that's in some kind of a trade, construction, maybe a carpet guy, and they want to store their equipment in there, it can be a lot more, maybe $500 to $800.
And how much would it cost to get all this set up with the garage door, the gravel, all the way down?
You could probably get it done for $2,500 to $4,000.
So $2,500 to $4,000, and you're looking at a maximum of $500 more a month. That's a pretty quick cash on cash return. But let's check out this garage.
Welcome to my crib.
Welcome to MTV Cribs.
Great. So,
oh, this is huge.
Yeah, so this is actually a pretty large detached garage here, but it's all concrete. It's got a drain. It's got plenty of storage. It does have electric as well. There's a 100 amp hookup in here.
Wow. You could rent this.
Absolutely. So it'll definitely be a rental.
All right, well, I think that's enough tour of the house. Let's go talk about the numbers and see what Devin is actually doing with this house to make some real money. All right, cool. So we got the tour of the house. Now, Devin, let's talk through some numbers and talk through the tenants first. First off, once you finish all the work on this house, how are you going to be able to rent it? How are you going to find a tenant?
So there's a lot of different ways to find a tenant, but when you're in a situation where you're splitting a house up and renting out multiple areas, in my opinion, the best place to go is either going to be Zillow, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. Despite what everybody says, you can actually find some really great tenants on Craigslist as long as you vet them properly.
Perfect. And how much are you going to charge?
The upstairs is going to be $1,500. And the downstairs is going to be $1,250, maybe a little bit more.
And keep in mind, that's with him paying the utilities. Are you going to provide internet service, anything of that sort?
Yeah, so I'm going to provide an internet service.
Cool. So the idea behind this is to kind of make it like an apartment complex. How did you come up with this pricing strategy of $1,500 and $1,250? I mean, where did you get those numbers from?
Well, being a local realtor myself, I actually work with a lot of different clients that are in this area. And believe it or not, there's people in this area that are renting basements for $1,400 in the condition that mine is already in right now.
Also, taking a look at local apartment apartment complexes to price the rental rate just below. Because think about it, I mean, if you're renting an apartment, you don't really get the highest grade or the nicest apartment, let's just say for the local one that's $1,500 or $1,600. If Devin can come in with the value of having a brand new kitchen, having the privacy, a private driveway in a single family house with a yard, and charge just under what apartment complexes are charging, he's not only going to be able to find tenants faster, but he's going to be able to rent it out easier, and tenants are going to be happier, which makes the landlord's job a lot easier. All right, so let's talk about the money part, the very interesting stuff, the reason why you're watching this video in the first place, which is what's the cash on cash return. Devin, how much did you come out of pocket to buy this house?
It was 3% of $275,000, so I believe that's $88,250.
What's your monthly mortgage?
It's $1,690.
It's gonna take him about 2 to 3 weeks to get the house completely market ready. By that time, on the 4th or 5th week of having all the construction done, the goal is to have a tenant lined up so that his out-of-pocket waste is only for the construction material. And whenever you buy a new house, the mortgage payment is typically delayed 1 month. So tenants will start paying you if everything lines up right and all the construction goes well as soon as your first mortgage payment is actually due. Now let's take a look and focus on the actual equity of the house. So you bought the house for $275,000. After you do all these upgrades, which I think we tallied it up to around $11,000 to $15,000, depending on if you do the furnace or not. That brings your total cash in around $19,250. So let's just round it up and call it 20 grand to get the house market ready. That's all in $295. What is the house going to be worth after you finish everything?
Basically, depending on the appraiser that I get, when everything is said and done, it'll be somewhere between $340,000 and $360,000.
So the instant equity from coming out of pocket around $20,000 over the course of 30 days comes to a tally of around $45,000 to $50,000. And on top of that, if you can find someone to rent out that garage for equipment, like a local landscaping company just starting up, that's an additional $500 to $600 a month. So a little over $3,000 in rent for having a $1,600, $1,500 mortgage. So we regurgitated a ton of information on you, and the point of us making this video is to give you a realistic example. So we're going to be giving you updates. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Leave a comment in the comment section down below if you think that you have any questions or you want to gain access to how to find these deals. I'm going to be coming out with a ton of new videos in the future teaching you how to get access to these wedge deals or these below market properties. But really, in a nutshell, Devin didn't really get like an amazing deal on this property. It's the value that he's bringing to it that is giving him the equity and building his wealth. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section and we'll catch you in the next one. you.